Welcome to the Ultimate Farm Wife podcast. On this channel, we're going to be discussing all things marrying a farmer, moving to the land, and becoming integrated with a family farming operation. Whether you're moving to the farm for the first time or whether you're moving back into a family farming operation, we discuss the ins and the outs of all of it. So let's jump into today's episode. Welcome back to another episode of The Ultimate Farm Wife. I'm your host and founder, Katja Williams, and today we're here on farm with Anna. Anna, thank you very much for coming on the podcast today. Introduce yourself, your family, and your farm.
Thank you, Katja. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. Yes, so as you say, my name is Anna, and I live on my family farm with my husband and two young boys who are almost 7 and 10 now, which is, having been a mum for 10 years, seems like need some sort of medal, I reckon, double digits. It's scary. So our family farm is located in the Charleville area in Western Queensland, and we are sheep and goats. So we are meat sheep and rangeland goats. So that is what we have here. Yeah, in our little slice of paradise.
Wonderful. Anna, you grew up on the farm, you went to the little school. What happened, tell me a little bit more about growing up on the farm. What was it like?
Oh, yeah, it was the best. So our story is like pretty small town, a little bit more small town than I like probably, but we did move away. We have done all the city things and we're back here on the farm now. But I actually grew up on the farm that we are living on now. Like, mum and dad still own this property and I'm now here with my family. My kids are going to a little school nearby where our property is. It's the same school I went to for primary school. It is a little bit smaller now than it was when I was there. And my mum actually worked doing the same job as I'm doing now, which is crazy to think. But you could almost, I'd say, call us locals now. I think we fit the bill. But yeah, so that's where we are. And growing up on the farm is just it's such a free way to grow up. And I guess that was a massive motivation for us to, I guess, stay on the farm. Like, now that we've sort of come back, is because it is just such a great way for our kids to grow up. Like, I watch my kids doing the same things that we did when we were kids, like climbing trees, doing some kind of dangerous things, riding motorbikes and just digging in the dirt. Like, a couple of afternoons ago, we just rode our motorbikes down to where neighbour is dozing out a bit of fence, and he dug a massive hole with the dozer to push the wire into, and there was a huge pile of dirt, and we were there for probably an hour. The kids took off their pants and their shoes and just played in the dirt. Like, that is the epitome for me of what growing up on a farm really is, because it is just that freedom to be in the dirt, to get dirty, and just, it's like a simple way of life. Like, yeah, complicated, but simple as a kid. You just, you live in your life.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. Outside kids all the way.
100%. Hey, outside, and they have the ability to not be on screens, to just, live life outside, sort of thing. We're very lucky, very lucky.
Yeah. And you went away to boarding school. So where was boarding school? What years were you there? What was it like going from free range farm kid to having to be in boarding school?
Yeah, so I went away back then. High school started in grade 8. So I went away in grade 8 and then finished in grade 12. So I went through to Toowoomba to an all-girls boarding school there. And not everybody loves boarding school, but I honestly just loved it. Like, I loved, perhaps too, because I did come from such a small school and maybe just really enjoyed having so many friends. around. You literally lived with your friends. You went to school with your friends. Like for me, it was amazing. Sure, a little bit of homesickness at the start, but it is not something that I distinctly remember very much of at all. Like I remember the good times kind of thing. Yes, I really enjoyed boarding school, and it kind of opened up a lot of opportunities that we probably didn't have here. Like if I was to have stayed and gone to school locally, it would have been an hour plus bus trip one way. So that's morning and afternoon. And it just took away some of the opportunities for other sports. I was into music and that sort of thing, which I wouldn't have had the time, physically had the time in the day to be able to do, staying locally for school sort of thing. So it was a fantastic opportunity, and one that I and probably realise now the sacrifices that mum and dad had to make in order to give me and my brother those opportunities. So I 100% made it count. Like I worked really hard at school and made the most of made the most of that opportunity, and all the skills that came along with it.
Yeah. So when we were talking before we hit record, you said that you had, you finished school, you stayed in the city, you met your husband in the city, and then you had your kids. So what drew you to staying in the city? How did you meet your husband?
Yeah, so my husband and I actually met in our final year of school at a dance, because he went to the same school as my brother went to, and we went to this dance in grade 12, and he will say that it was the cow poo on his boots that drew me in, because they turned up late, and because they had been at a cattle show, and so that's what he'll say, that's what it was, like the charm of the cow poo on his boots or something ridiculous.
And what's your version?
Oh, well, I don't really. Yeah, he's a lovely guy. Maybe it was the cow poo. I don't know, but definitely the country boy. Very genuine. Very just a lovely guy. So that's what I'll say. He can stick to the cow poo, but I'll go. I'll go with the personality.
Yeah.
So I met him at school, and we've been together ever since. And because his family are actually from a property as well. So they had a property in the Trap Rock area between Warwick and Inglewood, and they are all wool growing merinos. So we're both from the land. That's what we know. I guess it's not all we know, which we're very grateful for as well. We stayed away, like after I finished school, I my first job out of school was cutting cabbages. Like I lived with my grandparents for 12 months, and I had to get a job like that. You finish school, you go and get a job. And my granddad got me a job cutting cabbages for someone that they knew, near where they lived. I lasted about a week, I think. It is really hard work. And just as it so happened, I'd also put in an application for a traineeship at the local council, like in admin. So that all kind of fell into place, and I was able to leave the cabbage cutting in my past. So from there I was with local government. So I worked my way up and through various councils. So Stanthorpe, Warwick, and then on to Toowoomba, where we bought our house, and we kind of settled there, and that's where we had our kids. And so I ended up actually studying building surveying. So I'm actually a building certifier by qualification, I guess, which I don't usually tell anyone, because it's a job that's in pretty high demand, particularly in these areas, but it's also not probably something, like I now know my personality is not best suited to be having arguments with builders and people who think they know better kind of thing. So I'm happy to be farming and raising my kids rather than rather than inspecting buildings, I think these days. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, Anna, you had your kids while you were in the Toowoomba area as well. So, what was your introduction to motherhood like? And then tell me about when you packed your life up and you head back to the farm.
Yeah. So I guess kind of when we were in the city, we pretty much just worked. Like my husband worked fly in, fly out. And so when I had my first son, he was still in that
Hmm.
lifestyle, I guess. And as a new mum, that is actually, I look back now and that's it was really challenging. Mum and like my parents stayed down for a little while, but there was a lot of time where I was, yeah, quite by myself, like when my husband was away and, all of the challenges that come from having a baby, breastfeeding, that did not come naturally to me whatsoever. Like we found our feet, but it took some time and there was a lot of, yeah, it was really challenging. And so, but we made it. And my husband, yeah, so he was FIFO for right through pretty much until our second little boy was born 3 years later.
Hmm.
And I went back to work in between. So, like, I took some leave, had 12 months off, and with my son, and then went back to work. And he went into daycare, and that was life for a couple of years before our next little boy was born. And probably that the daycare work life is something that I look back at now and like it was so good for my son developmentally, but it was also very challenging, particularly because my husband, he did work away and it came with a lot of sickness and a lot of germs as it does. And yeah, I found that really challenging. And it sort of when my second little boy was born, my husband was working closer to home, but my eldest Ollie was still going to daycare. And so he was bringing everything home. And I don't know, it was just like I found it. I just thought that like there's got to be something else. Like what else can we do that will see us not on this same merry-go-round kind of thing. Like we'd worked for probably 10 years straight, like we hadn't been anywhere. Like, and growing up on the farm, that was definitely something that was, we didn't have family holidays. Like I can remember maybe 2 family holidays, maybe there were more, but like we'd go away and we'd visit my grandparents down in Stanthorpe, but not the beach holidays, not the, like we had not been anywhere. Like I still haven't been anywhere. So we thought, nah, that's it. We're going to pack up. We want to travel Australia.
Yeah.
So we decided we'd buy a caravan and pack up our house and off we go. We actually kept our house, but we had packing up everything seemed like, I guess, more work. And we didn't have sort of anywhere else to kind of put all of our stuff. And I guess it gave us a bit of a safety blanket as well, because, my husband had come off working fly in, fly out. We had not lived together for, well, most of our married life. And so having our house there gave us a safety blanket. And like we had a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old in a small caravan, and we thought, okay, we're going to do this, but we're also keeping that in case we don't love doing this. Because anyone sharing on Facebook and Instagram about their trips around Australia, like it's all very picturesque and all very perfect, but weren't sure if it was for us. And so we thought, yeah, we'll keep our house, and we packed up our caravan. And our idea was that we'd call in and see mum and dad on the way at the property where we are now. And then we'd stay for a month, help them catch up on things, and we'd continue on our way, which we now look back and like, that was laughable because I should have known better. You never catch up Like, you never catch up. It's not a thing. Like, it is not a thing. So we're still catching up, and we're like nearly 6 years down the track. And we landed at the farm, landed here in February 2020. And as we well know now, the world fell apart at that time. And so we thought the farm was the safest place to be until like travel restrictions lifted, border issues resolved, and whatever. So we're like, okay, well, we'll just stay. And we just kind of fell into place. Like, it was just very seamless, really. Very seamless. And yeah, we still haven't caught up, and we're nearly 6 years down the track. So that's how we landed here.
Let's talk more about that integration, because it's can sometimes be difficult, but I'm so glad that it just fell into place for you. So tell me what sort of roles you and your husband were doing initially, and then how has that grown and changed over the last 6 years?
Yeah, so initially when we landed here, mum and dad were living here. We're fortunate to have also my dad's parents' place, which is about an hour away. And so this was sort of probably 12 months, I would say, after my grandparents had passed. So they were no longer, like, they had a period of time where they were in town in a retirement home and things like that, which left it really tricky to kind of manage, like, dad and they're coming out of a big period of drought. Like, they weren't out of the drought, but it was sort of looking fractionally better than it had. So dad was, and mum, like, exhausted. They had more on their plate than anyone really needs. So they're trying to manage that place up there. They've got stock left, right, and center on agistment. They've got this place here. It's as dry as chips. And so initially we were just doing whatever needed to be done, like relieving pressure, just doing general day-to-day jobs that needed to be done.
Give me an example of some of those jobs.
Okay, yeah, so fixing fences, fixing yards, fixing machinery, things that you go through that period of drought. And like dad has said, he said, you're just putting out fires, like, not actual fires, figurative fires. Like, something comes up, you go and fix that. Something comes up, you go and fix that. So you're continually kind of leaving things undone, or things break. Okay, I can't have the time to fix that right now. I'll have to come back to that because I've got to go and do this.
Yeah.
So when my husband landed out here, it was sort of, yeah, he had the ability to kind of fix things that needed fixing because he's a welder by trade. And so, yeah, fixing fences, just anything that needed to be fixed, he was there to help. And at the time, we were still feeding animals. There was still stock work, like gathering stock from agistment blocks, because it wasn't too long after we got here, probably the following spring. So we were here in February. I think winter was probably dry, and then it started to rain in the September or somewhere around there. So yeah, shifting animals and just anything that needed to be done. Yeah, so we did that, and I'd say probably 6 months. And like, we lived in our caravan out the front, and then mum and dad were in the house. And that comes with challenges in that my kids were little, like, my youngest was 1 and my eldest was 4, and they're exhausting. And, so I think mum and dad, like, we worked out we kind of needed our own space. And so mum and dad decided, because that was what they wanted to do in the long term anyway, is move up to the home block, and then we could be here to look after this one, I guess. So it sort of was a pretty natural transition, as like they sort of got the house up to sort of a more livable state up there, that they started to shift up to there, and we started to shift into this house kind of thing. And I mean, we didn't have much stuff because we were living in a caravan. So yeah, so it kind of just flowed. Yeah, which we're very thankful that that was kind of the circumstances at the time. Yeah.
And were they situations that you talked about around the family dinner table? Was it something that you just discussions you had down the paddocks between jobs? Was there any expectations that needed to be, sorted or filtered through that?
I don't really remember probably sitting down and sort of formally talking about anything as such. They're probably more those informal, well, and COVID probably helped in a lot of ways because there was a lot of conversations around what we didn't want to do, and that was we didn't want to be out in amongst like the chaos of closing borders and lockdowns and things like that. So I think that probably helped in a lot of ways. And of course we were talking about, yeah, we're happy to stay on, we're happy to help out, but we didn't know exactly what that would look like going forward, and we just kind of played it, day by day sort of thing. Yeah, because it's an ever evolving, ever changing situation, weather and seasons and, finances and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that was one step at a time. Like it wasn't coming out with the end goal and then trying to work out how you were going to make that work. So it sounds like moving from the reactive space that your parents were in the drought, having some help and support come on board with you and your husband, and then working out the dynamics of, sorting the two properties and the space issue first before where it is now on the farm. So you've got some off-farm income as well. You're working at the school that your kids now go to where you used to go. You said that your mum did the same job. So what was the
Yes.
job? And then how does that fit into the work that you're still doing on farm today?
Yeah. So, yes, literally found mum's name badge in one of the drawers at school. So I am admin in the office at school. So that is just 5 days a fortnight, which works perfectly. And I started that when my youngest started kindy, because there's no daycare out here. And that is definitely not something I wanted to put on mum by any stretch of the imagination. So once he started kindy, I just worked his kindy days. So I'd drop kids at school, I'd go up to the office, I'd do my day, and then we'd go home, which is like has been fantastic for mental stimulation, like for to use my brain again after so long. What felt like so long was just, yeah, was something I didn't really know I was missing, but I definitely was. And financially, that is also a help to us. It's not big heaps of money, but it is definitely, it's groceries. So that any little bit counts. And that, yeah, so that it continues to work really well because I still have my days here on the farm and then I have my days at school. I'm sure it would be, there are times when my work at school is probably like I could spend all of my time here, but it's that balance. Like I don't work in the school holidays, so that's so helpful. So we schedule projects for the school holidays, much to the kids' dismay. Like, okay, we're going to go and put up that fence this school holidays. Yeah, and they just kind of fit in. Yeah, so it's fantastic having that off farm work.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you mentioned that there's no childcare in your area. So for me, when I had my two oldest on the farm, so like one was one and one was a newborn, I used to have one on my front in a pack, one on my back in a pack, and I used to be on the bike. Now I'm in a side by side and they've got car seats strapped in as that natural progression goes.
Yes.
What did that look like for you? Two small kids on the farm, helping alleviate that pressure. What were the logistics like when they were young and you were doing that?
Yes. So, and I think this is where we were very lucky as well in that The pressure to be on farm wasn't so much on me because my dad and my husband were able to work together. So whilst now it's sort of we're a team, like I help him on farm now, but our kids are bigger, so they're riding their own bikes helping us. So back then, probably logistically, it worked so well in that my dad and my husband were off doing all of the things,
Yeah.
and like I helped where was needed, but the pressure kind of wasn't on me to be there every day. Not like, so we like I did the cooking and everything, like when we had staff and all of that sort of thing. But that is definitely not to say that there weren't some like kids on bikes, like mustering goats, like, and you only think about this afterwards. Like you think mustering goats, like, and the kids always go on my bike. Like I ride a two-wheeler because somehow I'm more capable of having two kids on a bike and doing all of the things. Whereas my husband, like, one will end up next to a tree while he goes and does what he's got to do, whereas the kids stay on my bike. Like, it's fine, I'll manage. Like, the kids stay on my bike, we'll just do what we've got to do. So one kid on the front and then one kid on the back, and then we had to go from that because, like, I literally could not see over their head, or they're too big that now they're on their own bike, sort of thing. And you only think about it after, but you're like, that could have gone so wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually
But yeah.
had an ultimate farm wife listener write to me this week, and I think this is the perfect place to answer this question. I did write back to her in messages as well. But she said, when do I know is the right time to buy them their own bike? So for me, because I've got younger kids, the answer from me is when they can ride a push bike without training wheels competently and
Yeah.
still have like not tunnel vision. Where for others, I think it would be very different, especially depending on your terrain. So with older kids, Anna, what would be your response to her?
I would agree with what you're saying there, when they can ride a push bike competently, but it depends on the kid as well, because some kids are just more wise than others. And definitely do not use us as an example, because I have my eldest, he's just a busy kid. He, and probably maybe he could have gone on a bike a bit later in his life than, say, my youngest, who is just so wise and so sensible and, sticks to the rules and watches where he's going. And consequently, my eldest has actually broken both of his legs on said motorbike by the time he was 8. And so I think it really depends on the kid, and any mum will know their kid, and
Yeah.
you will, and yeah, I don't know, you've just kind of got to roll with it, I guess, yeah. But definitely the skill would be to be riding a push bike confidently, and then onto a bike that they're not too, like, the bike's not too big for them, kind of thing. And if you start with the training wheels on the motorbike and kind of go from there, and I don't know, yeah. It's a crazy time.
It's a crazy time. I'm going to turn the conversation slightly. Anna, how long have you been on farm, and has any future planning like succession planning come up?
Yeah, so February is our 6-year anniversary. And so I guess we've kind of, our role on the farm has gradually developed over the time. So we went from somewhat, I guess, staff, kind of helper, kind of just, yeah, anything that needed to be done, kind of into more of a, like, into, I guess, a management kind of a role, very progressively. Like, dad's kind of stepped back progressively as we've learnt the reins, kind of thing. And like, we've had to relearn, because I grew up here as a kid, and that's a very different
Yeah.
situation to actually running the show. And my husband is from a different, like, the country's different. He's had to learn like a different way of doing things, combining what he's learnt off farm in his other jobs as well. So we kind of progressed into a management sort of a role where he would organise all the musters. And now really we are, yeah, effectively completely running the show. So Dad, yeah, like we organise all the stock masters, and we actually have our own sheep. So 3 years ago, we purchased a mob of Dorper ewes. So that was like our, I guess, commitment, or, like the start of our stock, like the start of our own, having our own stock here kind of thing. So now we run the place, I guess, like, yeah, like our own. And we help, like, Dad helps here and we help there as it's needed, but it's kind of like Dad's needed less and less here as time goes by, kind of thing, as we're confident, like he's there for advice if we need it. Yeah, but it's, yeah, kind of progressed slowly and kind of naturally. Yeah.
Good. Good. As you've touched on, the mindset and the relationship between, growing up with mum and dad on farm and then stepping into the more that management role. And as that progresses, have you found that the relationship or the communication has changed between you and your parents?
It probably has. And I think, yeah, and I think anyone operating in a family, like, farm situation knows the I guess benefits, but also the challenges that come with working with family, and to the what can be a generational gap as well. And there can be challenges in where I don't know how to say it, but like, Dad has a very sort of set way of doing things. He's been here a really long time. He's been farming a really long time, and we've learnt so much from him. But we also have experience and, I guess, things that we would like to try, and maybe different ways of doing things. And definitely not to say that we know the best ways. Like, we are still learning, and I think that can be a bit challenging as well at times, to have room to make the mistakes, because the stakes are so high. So I think not so much I guess the conversations change, but I guess that there is a generational gap a little bit, I think, which brings its challenges. Yeah.
Absolutely. There is a core part of the Ultimate Farm Wife audience who are the daughters of farmers like yourself, and they're wanting to integrate back into the family farming business.
Yeah.
And for many of them, they've been in that support role, or they're starting that support role, but wanting to get to the end as the farmer. What advice would you give to them about getting from those beginning support stages of coming back on farm to becoming recognised as the farmer in their own right? So many of them would say, I'm still referred to as so-and-so's daughter, or I'm still referred to as the help, rather than actually more into that management role, I guess.
And it is, I think it can be so challenging. It's a very different dynamic when you come back as the farmer's daughter. There's a whole, I guess, side of Instagram that is wives of farmers. You've married into the farm, and you've come back in that capacity. The son is the farmer.
Yep.
It's very different when the daughter is the farmer, because, and I suppose it depends on the farm, depends on the dynamic. But for us, I am involved as far as, I guess, strategic direction. Like, my husband and I really are a team. He really is the one who's doing the lion's share out in the paddock. There's not so much that I can do. Like, I can't commit to a whole heap of stuff in between school hours. Like, you've got drop off and you've got pick up. And if I go and do a fence run, I'll go out and get back just in time to pick up the kids. And if anything goes wrong along the way, I'm late for pickup, kind of thing. So he's doing the lion's share of that, but together we are really on the same page as far as direction goes. And probably having our own stock has been really fulfilling, because that gives us something that we have complete ownership over and complete decision making capacity in. So whether it's, yeah, for us it's sheep, but whether it's cattle, whether you can, and like we've kind of run them here sort of as part of a wage management kind of a package kind of a thing. So that's all part of it. And that has been really good, because that gives us that, and kind of shows our commitment, shows our interest, shows our ability. And then that helps to, I guess, go forward as well. Yeah. It's just so different when, yeah, being the daughter, and particularly, you know, for succession as well, because a lot of times, like the line, you know, succession comes to the direct biological link, I guess, which leaves the husbands in somewhat of a challenging position, because they're the ones doing the lion's share of the work. And we don't have the answers. Like, we're navigating this as we go, and it's, you know, like ever evolving, like we're taking it as it comes. But it is definitely something I've thought a lot about, in that, you know, the line of succession kind of comes this way to me, and then he's doing so much of the work, and where does that leave him, kind of thing. Yeah, it's a very different dynamic than when the son, you know, when it's the son's farm sort of thing, because in that case he's potentially doing still the lion's share of the work. It's just, yeah, it's a different dynamic sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So Anna, you have a brother. So where is your brother now? Is he in the picture? And how does that impact discussions of succession for the future?
Yeah. So yes, I do have a brother. He is younger than me, and he is a builder. So he lives away in the city, and he's building his business, and that's definitely something that he's very passionate about. And not to say that he's not, I guess, passionate about the land, but he has, yeah, he's more in with building, and so is happy for us to, I guess, move forward with the farm. And I guess even on that front, it's probably been too easy as well, in that he's very sure about what he wants to do. We're quite sure about what we want to do, and it's sort of flowed that way. And we have engaged someone to do a succession plan. So we have gotten someone involved, and we did probably, like, earlier on as well, just preliminary discussions, just so that everyone knew where they stood. Like, he would have a conversation with mum and dad, then us, and then my brother, and so that everyone knew kind of where they were at, and could speak freely, which may not always be the case, you know, if you're at a round table. Like, you mightn't be so confident to say exactly what you think. That's where he, like, made sure everyone had their say, everyone was on the same page, and it just kind of worked almost too easily. Like, everyone's sort of set where they're going, sort of thing. Yeah.
So Anna, is there any advice or mantras that you use that you think would be helpful to other listeners of the podcast to be able to implement into their life, their farm, that has helped you in that integration back onto farm?
Yeah, so I think for us, the key was to have something, like, if it's possible, have something of your own, something that you can take ownership of, take leadership with, and make all the decisions around.
Yeah.
Because sometimes if you're not able to make as many decisions as you might like, or you see things that could go differently, or there's a difference of an opinion in a way that something's done. If you've got your own something of your own that you make all the calls for, and it just gives you something that, if it's not as you would do over here, but this is exactly how you would do things over here. It just kind of gives you a bit of balance, I guess. And that helps also into the integration, like they can see that you're able to do that, like it's going well over here, and you can kind of, like ours has just been a little bit at a time, and probably not being super, like, not putting the pressure on, like keeping the pressure off as to where we want to end up. Like, there's no, like, life is forever. Like, why does it have to look a certain way? Like, it's fantastic to have goals, but to keep the pressure off keeps things more relaxed, and everybody gets along a lot better. If we're not, I don't know. Like we're still in amongst it. We're still navigating it, but we don't have the timeline pressure that's there to aggravate anyone. We're not coming in to take over in a whole heck of a hurry. It's just step by step, and having that probably succession planner involve someone who is independent is really important as well, so that everyone has the opportunity to speak their mind. You get a report, like they do the figures, they help everyone and make sure it's in everyone's best interest. And I guess too, looking at it like a business, because there's a lot of emotion in a family farm, trying to look at it more like, or as much as a business as you possibly can. So the figures don't lie, kind of thing, and working out what's best for you, and how that could look.
Yeah, absolutely. Anna, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, for sharing part of your story, and to help others who are integrating back into a family farming business and moving back to the farm. Really greatly appreciate your time. If people are if people have heard something and they want to reconnect with you, where can they find you?
Absolutely. I'm on Instagram over at, I call myself Two Kids in a Farmyard, because that is the chaos. I started that to share the chaos of landing back here on the farm. And so I hang out there most of the time. And so, yes, if something has resonated, definitely reach out over there, and I will do my very best to get back to you in a timely fashion in amongst the chaos.
Absolutely love that. Thank you so much, Anna. Thanks for listening to another episode of The Ultimate Farm Wife. If today's chat has made you smile, nod, or feel a little bit more seen in this wild rural life of ours, share it with a mate, hit the follow button, and leave a 5-star review where you watch or listen to this podcast. It's the best way to keep growing this community and showing your support for the Ultimate Farm Wife podcast. A big thank you to the crew behind the scenes who are helping keep this show on the rails. To our show editor, Krista DePathra at the Rural Podcasting Network, and Lou and her team at the Administration Agency. And of course, to yourselves who tune in every week. Until next time, keep your hearts full, your boots dusty, and your sense of humour close. Before you go, if you've been loving these farm life chats, I'd love for you to join me over on my other podcast too. It's called Absolutely Fabulous, where we dive into agriculture beyond the headlines and bridging the urban-rural divide. We'll deep dive into big conversations in ag, from the challenges to the highlights and what's shaping our future. It's a space where honest stories, laughter, and a good dose of farm life real talk goes on. So make sure to head to the link in the show notes, subscribe to the Absolutely Fabulous, and I'll play the intro for you now.
Hi, welcome to Absolutely Fabulous. My name is Gillian Fennell, also known as Station Mum 101. I love everything about agriculture, especially the people, and especially communicating about what makes Australian ag so special.
And I'm Katja Williams, a beef, cattle and cropping farmer, and I love all things ag, and I'm also known as the Ultimate Farm Wife. Together, we are absolutely fabulous, and we are talking all things agriculture beyond the headlines.
And we can't wait to give our opinion to you. And we hope you enjoy it.